Welcome back, y'all, to episode 2 of my book review podcast called Rango Dango Reads. Uh, yes, I'm Chase Tuten, and this is Rango Dango Reads. Now, in the intro, I said that I was going to review a book I had read a couple years ago. This is true. This book is, excusez-moi. This book is called Hall of Mosses by Nicoline Evans. It's a YA fantasy novel, easy read, fun read. Now, not it not necessarily out of my realm of genres. I love YA books. They're very simple to read, and they're inviting, they're engaging. They're just fun books. But the reason I chose this one had nothing to do with the cover. It had nothing to do with the book itself. I was at MegaCon in Orlando a few years ago, and I walked up on this booth, and this woman was beautiful. So I went up and spoke to her and decided to buy a book because, well, honestly, she was a beautiful lady. And I said, you know what? Why not? And also, the cover art was pretty cool. Her booth looked pretty sweet. And the concept of the book was also very interesting. I don't want to, I don't want to butcher all this. I don't want to butcher the book. I don't remember it verbatim. It was a few years ago. Um, and I think I've since given the book to someone else to read. I'm not real sure, but the concept is this. And if you haven't read it yet, don't worry, I'm not going to give too much away. I'll just give the highlights and what I liked about it. So, basically, the concept is that there's this girl who I believe lives in um, San Francisco, and I might butcher some of the details, so please, if they're not perfect, don't come running after me with torches and pitchforks. All right, so I believe this girl lives in San Francisco, and she ends up moving in with her sister or something. But anyway, she ends up in like Seattle area, the Pacific Northwest, Seattle, Oregon, Mount Olympus, I think, that in that general area up there in the Northwest somewhere. And she ends up working at this bar. And so every weekend she'll ride her dirt bike out, she'll go into the forest. The park ranger's like on great terms with her. So she goes in the forest and she ends up finding this place which she calls the Hall of Mosses. And she stays there, she reads there, she gets in touch with nature, she gets away from all the hecticness, and she feels like she's empowered basically. And she'll sleep outside, she'll, let's say, basically camp, but she'll camp underneath the canopies. And so she's just there, but she's getting in tune with nature. And she feels like this is where she is meant to be. She's home. Okay. This to me shows that yes, it's a very spiritual book in that regard. Um, and we're all connected to nature, and this book really highlights how nature, some people in the book didn't see it the way she did, so they weren't exactly understanding of why she loved being out there so much, not in a negative way, just not quite in the way that she was. So, um, but yes, it's a very spiritual book in that regard. So she's connected to nature. She always feels like she's more herself when she's in the Hall of Mosses. It's her home, right? And she feels like there's a calling. There's something there that keeps bringing her back, that keeps making her want to stay, that makes her feel different than than she does when she's, back in the city. And so over time, as it grows, it starts to become more. Well, let's get back and talk about so isolation. When she's isolated, she's with her own thoughts, and this kind of goes along the lines of um, and this may not have been what the author was talking about, but in my mind, when I see it, I think of more of like this is kind of connecting to meditation. So she's able to meditate and get away from everything, cancel out the noise, and really get in touch with herself when she's in the Hall of Mosses. And it's a very good message. It shows you sometimes you need to just be alone with yourself to improve yourself, to feel more you. And when you're more you, when you feel more yourself, then you're better for everyone around you. Okay. Now moving on, um, throughout the book, things start to happen. Okay, the like natural disasters start happening all over the world. All right. And tons of people are dying off, and the earth is basically crumbling. And so she starts getting messages. She doesn't understand how she's getting these messages because they're not coming through like phone and whatever. She's getting these messages telepathically. It's like when she's in this place by herself, when she's in the Hall of Mosses, she gets on this frequency and she can connect to, I think, these six other people, right? And it's these telepathic messages, and these six other people are the other ones who feel at home in their elements as well. So they're also connected to a different element. Okay, one person's connected to like volcanoes or something. Another one's connected to like water, so, some it's kind of elemental in a sense, but each of these seven people, and I'm pretty sure it's seven. It's like I said, it's been a while. I might be off on a couple aspects, but this is the overall gist. So they're speaking telepathically, and this I know from experience, from genuine experience, is more true than fantasy, right? We can do this. It is a true thing. But anyway, so she gets on this frequency in the Hall of Mosses, and it's basically like her control room. She's able to communicate to these other people telepathically, and she doesn't understand it. It takes her a while to figure it out, and then eventually she gets she starts to understand it. She starts to be okay with it and realize that it is real. It's not something she's imagining. And so she ends up being told, "Hey, go to this place." So they all meet there. And now when I got this book, and I'll preface, I not preface because I'm deep into it. When I got this book, um, there had already been either plans for sequels and triquels, the third one, I don't know, trilogies, or they had already been out. I think they were already out. I'm not sure, but so I'm not necessarily giving it away completely because this is the first book in the series and there were already a couple already written. And in the book I had, it even shows like, hey, this is the next book, blah, blah, blah. Right? No, sorry, I thought my phone was ringing. So she ends up going to this place and she's asked to bring, well, she didn't go to the place yet. She's asked to bring like 70 people, 20 people, she's asked to bring a good amount of people though to this place and people of her choosing who she thinks can help, basically save Earth and move it forward after this destruction that is coming, right? So she ends up finding her people. She has struggles with it, but she ends up finding her people and she ends up escaping her Hall of Mosses, her Pacific Northwest, and I want to say she gets on this boat and ends up going to the agreed upon location from the other chosen ones, I guess you could say. And in that, they basically see the world crumble. And so now they are tasked with, and not just directly from them seven, but the seven, they were basically messengers and I wouldn't say prophets, but in this universe of this book, you could somewhat compare them to the way, take it how you will. The best way I can describe this is they were seven prophets, I'm not going to make that comparison. Their seven prophets come down to get followers, get disciples, basically, and um, build a new world after this one crumbles. So they get to this destination, Earth basically crumbles, and then it sets up for the second book. Okay. I haven't read the second book. I haven't read the third book, obviously. If I haven't read the second book, why would I read the third book? All right. But that's basically the concept. I thoroughly enjoyed this book. I have been looking, I could just order it online. I don't know why I haven't, but I've been looking for the second book for years. It's not, I have never been able to find it at Barnes& and Noble. I've not been able to find it at Books A Million. I'm sure I can find them online, but I have not been able to find them yet. And I would love to continue the story. Highly recommend it for um, anyone YA. Honestly, highly recommend it for anyone who just loves a good story, good meaning. It definitely goes deeper than the words. Um, it to me, it's like it really got me thinking more about nature. Um, and there are no coincidences. There are no coincidences. So for me to find that book, regardless of the reason that I found it, it kind of changed my perspective on some things and made me really more interested in nature. So yes, this YA book, this YA novel, in some ways you could say it changed my life. Not like the, oh my gosh, I'm a completely different person, but it made me open my eyes and change my perspective somewhat and really start to appreciate nature more than I already had. Um, but I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I honestly think you will too. I really do. And now here's the beautiful thing about books, and this will be a common theme for this book review podcast and other platforms. Perception is reality. Now, just because I saw this book in this way, you may read the book and see it in something completely different and get a totally different feel, get a totally different understanding, hear a different message, and enjoy it in a different way, right? Perception is reality. Okay, so how you perceive the world, that is your reality. I perceive this as being um, a highlight on isolation and meditation and spirituality and nature, and you may perceive it in a totally different way, and that is perfectly fine because we are all different, and so all of our perceptions are different, so all of our realities are different, right? But that's basically it. That's Hall of Mosses. I highly recommend. I would honestly, I may end up reading it again. I may go find it and read it again. Absolutely loved it. Kudos to Nicoline Evans for pumping out a fabulous book. I'm sure the others are just as well. Um, but I will post a link to purchase Hall of Mosses in this bio. If it doesn't work, then we'll figure something else out. Um, but yeah, if you like this review, come back for another one next episode. Like I said, this will also be posted on my YouTube channel of the same name, Rango Dango Reads. And then I have two more reviews before I start pumping out the Instagram and TikTok and YouTube short progressional reviews. But yeah, that's Hall of Mosses. The next book I'll review is The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. Now that book is something else in the best way possible. Um, yeah, but I'm Chase Tuten. This is Rango Dango Reads. Ta-ta for now, kittens.